Good morning. We are live now, and a warm welcome to the virtual conference on Rajasthan Water Summit. And water invariably has been a critical element for all policy planning in Rajasthan over the years, and it has always been a challenge to ensure service delivery to the last mile in the second largest, now the largest state of India.
Hello.
And
Hello. Hi.
and we have an interesting mix of speakers. I would request Mr. Ashok for welcome remarks. Over to you, sir. Excuse me.
Morning, everybody. I would like to extend a very warm welcome to Shri Niranjan Arya, Chief Secretary, Government of Rajasthan. I understand he has joined. Mr. Naveen Mahajan, Principal Secretary, Water Resources, Government of Rajasthan. Mr. Katsuo Matsumoto, Chief Representative, Japan International Cooperation Agency. Mr. Dilip, Chenoy, Secretary General FICCI. Shivanshu, Chauhan, Partner and Leader, Urban Infrastructure, PWC India. And our co-chairman, Mr. Randhir, Vikram, Singh. Participating delegates, friends from media. Very good morning to everybody. Pleased to be amongst you all at today's virtual conference. And we just said that starting from April, we'll have physical meetings rather than have virtual conference. We just shared with Naveen Mahajan. Rajasthan Water Summit focusing on one of the most critical resource of Rajasthan, which is water. So Rajasthan, with only 1% of water resource, has a serious development challenge and calls of effective management of this critical resource to cater to the needs of different user segments. We are experiencing the problem of water stress, and unless water management practices are changed and change soon, will face a severe water crisis within the next 2 decades. We are constantly underpriced water, wasting and overusing it. As a result, we have depleted stocks of groundwater at the expense of our future water needs. We are now on the verge of water bankruptcy in many places with no way of paying the debt back. There's still enough water for all of us, but only so long as we keep it clean, use it more wisely and share it fairly. I think most of you are aware, CGW had issued notification on 24th of September, where notification has been issued, which are the critical areas, which are semi-critical, which are overused, and for industry, it is going to be a big challenge as we go forward. Rajasthan is one of the areas where there are a lot of problems as far as users of water is concerned. One of the biggest impediments facing the development and distribution of water resources is the high capital expenditure, long gestation periods, and poor cost recovery in the water sector. Thereby, raising of the desired amount of capital for project becomes very difficult. I would also like to acknowledge and appreciate that despite all these challenges, Rajasthan has done commendable work in this space, which has been recognized at various national and international platforms. The ambitious Jal Jeevan mission aims at providing every rural household with drinking water supply in adequate quantity of prescribed quality on regular and long-term basis at affordable service delivery charges, leading to improvement in living standards of our rural communities. I'm sure that today's deliberations will provide a meaningful insight on various aspects related to water management, ecosystem enabling us to harness better resource for a better tomorrow. Thank you and all the best for today's function. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. And as I mentioned, Chief Secretary sir has got other engagements and he will be there for some while. Though we will take Mr. Shivanshu Chauhan, Partner and Leader, Urban Infrastructure, PWC India, for his presentation. And please conclude in 10 minutes. Over to you, Mr. Chauhan. Please unmute yourself.
Sorry, are you projecting it or shall I project it?
You can do it here.
Okay. I hope it's visible now.
Yeah.
So I'll stick with the 10-minute time frame that has been allotted, and thank you for the opportunity to share our perspective on this very important area. It is something that possibly the biggest crisis that the humanity has ever faced is what is ahead of us. And I look at the wastewater in these two sectors. Put in perspective a very normal thing that we all know is the kind of that we are looking at. and more of this commercial development that are there is going to create this push for the more and more water requirement. Side of it, it is if we take a very conservative estimate and look at what kind of land capacity augmentation is happening and what kind of additional investments are being planned as a result of these investment promotion exercises, Make in India, which are very important and must succeed. There is also going to be increased pressure on the demand for water supply. And if we take a conservative estimate, that demand is going to go approximately at 3% on an annual basis. Now, this is after considering that industry has taken considerable initiatives in terms of reusing the treated wastewater, moving on to zero liquid discharge, so on and so forth. This is still going to be an incremental demand. Now, the other thing is which is happening are the large industrial corridors which are being planned, which is from on both the western side, eastern side, so on and so forth. Now, one needs to look at what is the availability of water in these areas, and that is going to be a success factor for these. And what kind of industries are we putting in? Will these be the water high on water demand, or will these be the one which can kind of work with the low water availability and more of treated wastewater? Now, the kind of plan that the government has in place, it seems that the treatment capacity and the wastewater generation more or less are going to be same, which then leads to the question to where is the challenge. So what you are looking on the, or what you are seeing on the left side of this slide is the 10 countries and the groundwater extraction that happens across them. Now, 72% of the overall groundwater extraction happens in these 10 countries, 35% of which happens in India. Now, that is what we are doing to the groundwater source, which means that with this kind of extraction, we are depleting a very precious resource. On the other side, we actually capture only 8% of the rainfall that happens in the country, which is lowest in the world. So put those two things in perspective. One, we are depleting the source which is available. On the other side, we are not really recreating the source which is available to us. And on top of it, we have this sewerage generation, which is approximately 62,000 MLD. Now, the numbers would have moved from 2015 till 2020. The treatment capacity then was approximately 38%. A lot of good initiatives have been taken in terms of STPs, etc. They would have created the additional capacity, but more or less we are still living with the same percentages. And as in the numbers out, we'll possibly get to know where we are and how much needle we have moved. But I believe it will still be considerable distance that we need to cover. So the surface water is something which is getting contaminated and polluted. So we are actually in a downward spiral if adequate measures are not taken, which gets problem becomes acute by the fact that by 2030, and if you have to go by Niti Aayog's assessment, the demand for water supply will approximately be twofold of the demand for water will be approximately twofold of the supply which will be available at that point in time. So there is increased need for looking at conservation practices, looking at efficiency related aspects. These are not something which is which is a matter of choice anymore. We do appreciate that the bulk of it is sitting on the municipal side, meaning on this 62,000 MLD, approximately 1,000 MLD is bought only for industries. And a lot of these industries have taken good initiatives in terms of ensuring that wastewater treated wastewater is well used. The ESG agenda which has come in will give further push to these kind of practices, which is good for us. But there is need for speed and scale in adopting these practices so that we are not running out of a precious resource that we have. And looking at what assessment you do or what assumptions you make, if you are able to treat and reuse approximately 80% of the wastewater that you're going to generate, our source by the time 2030 would be more than 200 to 300% of water which will be available in, without treating and reusing it. Now, there are conflicting forces at play. On one side, we are looking at this rising urbanization. We have this industrial corridor I talked about. Improved sanitation and the whole Swachh Bharat mission has created, and thanks to COVID also, there's a recognition of washing your hands continuously at repeated interval, which is going to put pressure on the water supply which is available. The commercial development I talked about, and there is this whole focus on agriculture outputs, which is it's depending on the report that you take, 85 to 90% of the water is actually sitting on the agriculture side. So if you are looking at more crop per drop, then there is going to be more requirement over there. But we need to see how to bring in efficiency. And then the water for all, which is being done through Jal Jeevan Mission, a very important one, and we must be looking at it. On the other side, we have the depleting water level that we talked about. The urban planning, which is not really synchronized with the industrial requirements. So when you look at the sewerage planning under Amrut, etc., is it really aligned to the places where the industrial corridors and industrial areas are getting developed so that you can easily transport or transmit the treated wastewater, which otherwise becomes a challenge because you may need to create a parallel infrastructure for such transmission. While we look at the scenario, which is going to be very different going forward, if we are not able to address this problem on a speed and scale, we are still stuck somewhere in the traditional financing models. We are not looking at new ways to bring in private sector into this because this treatment itself is approximately $5 billion opportunity. Now, this requires newer models to come in. How do we attract those private sector players? Then technology integration has happened. It has happened in bits and pieces, certain pockets. I'm happy that Rajasthan has taken the initiative of getting in a smart meter. I'm sure there's it will be used to its fullest potential. And then possibly the most tedious one is the procurement process. Now, this is a larger animal, a bigger issue. How do you get in some of these international companies, these technologies into India while living with the procurement process that we have? I think it's a larger reform which is required. So I'll not spend too much time on it. But we need to look at that for a problem like this. How do we bring in some of those international players into this, or get the Indian players to develop those technologies which may not be very cost effective but will have higher impact? So in terms of, to summarize the whole thing, what we need to do eventually is to look at the water balancing side. How much should go to agriculture, how much needs to go to urban, how much needs to go to rural, so on and so forth. So it has to be relooked upon. The focus has to be on quality of water because with the improved hygiene related aspects, people being more sensitive towards it, everyone is looking at what kind of water they are consuming. Increase use for reuse and recycle across all industries, particularly on the industry side, will be more relevant for the unorganized and the smaller industries. And I do hope that the ESG agenda is going to push more and more reuse that way. Technology should be used in a larger manner. It should not be something which is used as for the sake of having technology, but from an outcome orientation. So let's use technology and enabler, and many such technologies available now. There are cost variations across membranes, etc., but I think those things can be taken care of. The other is the integrated utilities. When we are planning water supplies, or if the urban authority is planning water supply in a particular area, it's important to look at who are these larger consumers of treated wastewater. How do I create the infrastructure so that we are able to provide this treated wastewater of the desired standard to the concerned industries? And while doing it, what kind of procurement models do I need to have? Do I need to enable the local companies to innovate, which is preferred? May not be cost effective, but look at change from an impact perspective. Or if we have to bring in someone from outside, what are the procurement models that we can adopt within the existing guidelines to get them to coming in and help us solve this problem? That's all that I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chauhan. And we have our next speaker, Mr. Katsuo Matsumoto, who is Chief Representative of Japan International Cooperation Agency, India, and he is there since June 2018. Prior to this, he was engaged in several flagship development projects in South Asian region, and he has experience of working for large-scale official development assistance loan projects for Mekong region and South Asian countries, including regional corridor projects. JICA, as many of you must be knowing, was established by a specific law as an incorporated administrative institution under the government of Japan. The Japan International Cooperation Agency aims to promote international cooperation as the sole Japanese government agency in charge of ODA implementation. So with these words, we thank you and invite you for your remarks. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Sharma. Can you hear me?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and namaskar. Member Hota Barifun, Ajike is Samaharome Aka. The agenda of the event is very, very crucial, and there is no doubt that the water and sanitation sector is one of the most important sector for the national and state development context in India. JICA, as the Japanese official development agency, has been working with the water and sanitation sector in India for a long time. And this will provide the financial and technical support to project in urban and rural areas. Our supported project, fortunately, have benefited about 30 million people until now. And we intend to continue our cooperation in this area as much as possible. And our official relation and cooperation with Rajasthan started in the 1990s. And we have been working with the government of Rajasthan for about 30 years. So among these, in the water sector, we have been working for water supply project in Jaipur and the rural areas. And now we are the Rajasthan Rural Water Supply and Fluorosis Mitigation Project, phase 1. And the information, let me quickly touch upon this project. The project provides safe and adequate drinking water to the people in Nagar district. The district is suffering from the scarcity of the groundwater, which is heavily contaminated by fluoride. So Mr. Chauhan pointed out many issues and challenges in Rajasthan, and this contamination issue is also very critical. And by constructing the surface water supply facilities, the project reduces hardship and improving the health of the people. And the project area is located in the arid region of the Thar Desert and has a population of approximately more than 3 million. And most of the groundwater in Nagar district contain a high amount of the naturally derived fluorine, and the people were forced to drink these contaminated water. And when project started almost 8 years back, about 34% of the children aged 6 to 14 years in the district are affected with the fluorosis, and 80% of its household unable to access safe drinking water. So the Nagar district has the most serious water shortage in Rajasthan at the time. So based on the agreement with the state government of Rajasthan, also the central government, we signed a loan agreement in 2012, of which amount is almost 25 billion rupee. There are mainly 3 components in the project, namely the construction of the water supply facilities, including the distribution network, more than 7,000 kilometers, and the fluorosis mitigation and capacity building of the bridges for the operation and maintenance. And not only financing the hard facilities, but also support such kind of a soft component is kind of a key to have effective the project. And the project of the is now the ongoing, but very nearly completion, the 90% of the progress. And after completion, we expect that more than 24 lakh people are beneficial, and they can maybe enjoy more clean and healthy water after that. And the project has been uniquely designed where participative approach has been adopted to ensure, especially the participation by the villagers. And the project also has been designed to allocate a separate budget for addressing the fluorosis mitigation. And there are several approach has been adopted, like a village approach, school and hospital approach. It is really necessary for the end users to understand the water quality. Water quality is how the impact, what impact on their health. This is kind of like one objective of the project. And in the process of the project, we may point out the issues to be addressed, especially for the reorganization of the institutional arrangement. Rural water supply scheme need to be integrated with the sanitation, sewage, and the personal health. To adopt the multi-sectoral approach to ensure and maximize the benefit to the rural communities, interdepartmental coordination is really necessary for successful implementation of the project scheme. Like you know that the water and the sanitation sector is really also key to achieve the SDG, and we believe the more and more comprehensive approach to have like effective the project is really important. In addition to this project, we are now almost in the final stage to formulate a new rural water project in Rajasthan. And we believe that these projects can supply enough water to target area and the people. And it is expected that can be the good model of the rural areas, and the know-how should be transferred to the other state. And taking this opportunity, let me also know that the JICA has started the campaign for the promoting hygiene practice for people in India, like nail cutting, the hand washing, and taking a mask and so on. And we call it the Achi Adapt campaign, and we're in the position to incorporate such kind of like educational and awareness program of hygiene and the sanitation into the NGO activity under the JICA supported project. Finally, I hope that the FICCI member will participate in the project in the field of the water sanitation more and more. This is a very, very important dimension, how to introduce a new technology and the innovation. So your technology and ability to implement the project will have a great impact on the outcome of the project. I wish you all the best in your contribution to the development of Rajasthan. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Matsumoto. And we look forward to many more projects with JICA in Rajasthan. Japan and Rajasthan already have a very symbiotic sort of relationship. Mr. Mahajan was previously MD RICO, and he would vouch that we have an exclusive Japanese zone also at Nimrana, wherein a lot of investments from industries is already there. So thank you for your presence and sharing your views. And our next speaker is Mr. Naveen Mahajan, who is Principal Secretary Water Resources, Government of Rajasthan, 1997 batch IAS officers, has held various important positions in the government as Principal Secretary PHED, Secretary MSME, Secretary LSG, Secretary Finance, Secretary Panchayati Raj, Project Director RUIDP, Commissioner Investments and Promotion, Collector and District Magistrate of Jaipur, Jodhpur, Ajmer, Churu, and various other positions. And he brings in a lot of passion and energy in whatever he is doing. And right now he's transforming the water landscape of Rajasthan. So with these words, we welcome you and invite you to share your thoughts, sir. You have to unmute yourself, sir.
Thank you, Atul, for the lavish introduction. I think all of us need to bring passion and commitment in whatever we do. And currently, I'm handling water resource sector in Rajasthan. And the biggest challenge, I think, in Rajasthan is the scarce resource we have on the waterfront. So as Principal Secretary Water Resources, my foremost concern is how do we ensure water security for this water scarce state in the years ahead. So when I look at the broad profile of water resources in the state, as Mr. Kajaria pointed out in his opening remarks, geographically, we are a very big state. 10% of the country area, it's there in Rajasthan. But when it comes to water resources, we are very poorly placed. So just 1% surface water and nearly the same groundwater of the entire country. If I talk about surface water, 50% of my surface water comes from neighboring states as part of interstate agreements. Now, allow this hard fact to sink in. The water security of this state, as far as surface water availability is concerned, 50% of it is dependent on interstate shares. And interstate shares, they are very complicated, politically sensitive subjects. So I have to take water from Punjab side, from Haryana side, from Gujarat side, from Madhya Pradesh side, and all these are enmeshed in typical treaties, in agreements, and we are at the tail end of all the interstate water conveyance channels. So being a tail end state, it has its own challenges. So I'm largely dependent on how the monsoon has been in that part of the world. So if Punjab, Himachal, Haryana, they have had their decent share of dams full, only then they'll give you your due share. In case they are facing some sort of an inadequacy, they will first try that their fields they get irrigated optimally, they get their drinking water requirements fulfilled, their industrial water requirements are met, and then they'll pass on the rest to Rajasthan. So that is a very precarious kind of a scenario. As far as groundwater is concerned, again, if we talk about quantity, we are very miserly place. But if we talk about quality, we are worse off. Nitrate, fluoride, salinity, you name an issue, and we have it in Rajasthan. So it's again a daunting challenge how to run this state and make it sustainable on water security with this kind of a water resource availability. So I think our core concern has to be not only invest in future water assets, but try looking into rehabilitation of the existing assets. So we do a hardcore professional project to project case analysis, find out what are our water use efficiencies. So if we talk about drinking water sector, you'll be surprised. In a state like Rajasthan, we have leakages which can run as high as 35 to 40%. So Mr. Chauhan, he was making that presentation on the sewerage part. So I've been in RUIDP for about 2 years. So I have a decent exposure on what is happening in urban infrastructure front. And he rightly pointed out, we are basically squandering away very precious natural resource by doing very little wastewater recycling. So time is now opportune that we have to invest in recycling. We have to reduce the basic water usage. Now, conventional farming practices, irrigation is the biggest culprit as far as wastage of water resource is concerned. So they are still doing flow irrigation. So these conventional agricultural practices in a state like Rajasthan, they are not going to take us very far. So we have to invest in those practices which can be easily done, conveniently done through drip and sprinkler. So this is the way forward. So I like to share and reiterate that the state government, it is committed to promotion of drip and sprinkler in agriculture. So as a conscious policy decision, we have taken a call that all irrigation projects in the state, they will be mandatorily on drip and sprinkler. So there will be no flow irrigation whatsoever in any future projects which are being undertaken. And lot of conversion of existing projects we are incentivizing so that farmers they can abandon, they can discard their traditional flow irrigation practices and embrace much more healthier options of drip and sprinkler. So we are providing top-up subsidies also. The idea is that we make this movement a success. So I was hearing Mr. Matsumoto from JICA, and we are doing a major livelihood program in 27 districts with JICA. It's a nearly 2,400 crores project. And apart from what Government of India and the state government is conventionally giving, through this project, we are also providing to individual farmers who are doing currently flow irrigation top-up subsidies, so that they embrace these improved farming techniques, they save water, And through saving of this water, we have water available to be given to industry, to be given for drinking water, to be given for other potential usages. Another thing, what we are attempting is that there is a lot of regional diversity in the state as far as water availability is concerned. Now, Kajaria ji, your basic operations, they happen to be in a district which is groundwater wise, surface water wise, not at all abundant. So Alwar is facing a very grim scenario as far as water is concerned. And it happens to be just next to NCR. So if we have to bring investments, we have to find water. And if we have to find water, the water which is available in surplus basin areas of the state, say Kota area, or say the southern Rajasthan part, we have to find ways that we do surplus water transfers to water deficit areas. So keeping that in mind, we had detailed discussions in the bureaucracy. We had deliberations at the level of our chief secretary. We took it at the level of Honorable Chief Minister. And I'm happy to share that in the current budget, Honorable Chief Minister, he made a very historic announcement. Now, the surplus water, which goes waste from Chambal to Yamuna during monsoon, a good part of it will be harvested and it will be transferred beyond Kota, and it will be conveyed through about 200-kilometer long channel and the water deficit of two dams, Bisalpur Dam and Isarda Dam, they will be taken care of. Now, if I bring this extra water, which was otherwise going waste to Yamuna, to Bisalpur Dam. So Bisalpur Dam takes care of three critical districts, the capital, Ajmer, and Tong. So three districts, new opportunities, now they emerge. Likewise, Isarda. Isarda again takes care of the eastern Rajasthan districts, especially Dausa, Swai Madhopur. But the kind of water we are trying to tap in Isarda, maybe a district or two more, they will stand to benefit. Now, this is also a subset of the ambitious Eastern Rajasthan Canal project. It's on a much bigger magnitude, but what the state government has taken upon itself, that since we are yet to get it recognized at the national level as a national status project, wherein the government of India chips in with a decent funding. Till that thing materializes, the state government, it has taken upon itself that this important component of ERCP will be funded by the state government from its own resources. I think it's going to be a very big game changer. Another major initiative which we have done on the surplus water transfer is in Western Rajasthan, we have Jawai Band. Now, Jawai caters to, again, the water scarce districts of Pali and Siroi. Again, in most of the monsoons, if we study the profile of Jawai Dam, it normally gets filled up to 50 to 60%. So there is a huge water deficit in Jawai Dam. There is a Sai Dam which was built in 70s decade. Now, the idea of that Sai Dam was that whatever water is surplus from Sabarmati, which goes waste from the southern Rajasthan side to Gujarat side. Now that water we tap and we bring it to Jawai Dam. Now that project has been approved by Honorable Chief Minister. Funds have been provided to us. We are shortly in the process of inviting bids, and it's a very interesting project. There is a 6.7 kilometer long tunnel. We are going to work on the sill level, lower it, enhance its carrying capacity, and bring larger amount of water from Sai Dam to Jawai Dam, thereby handling the deficit issue of Jawai Dam. In another 2.5 years, Jawai, with its water deficit issues, it will be behind us, and water security largely of Pali and Siroi belt, it will be taken care of. Then I'd like to dwell on this IGNP area. Now, IGNP area caters to the 10 districts which start from Ganganagar, Hanumangarh, Bikaner, Jaisalmer, Jodhpur, Nagaur, right up to the border. Now, this IGNP system, it has irrigation potential of over 16 lakh hectares. So you can imagine the kind of livelihoods this IGNP system supports in those districts. Apart from that, 7,500 villagers in those districts, they get their drinking water requirements met from the IGNP system. 49 towns, including all the major cities, be it Bikaner, Jaisalmer, Jodhpur, they also get their drinking water requirements met from the IGNP system. So that is so critical. Now, what happens? This IGNP system, it was laid in 1960s. Now that is more than 70 years back. Now 70 years, it's a long time. The system needs a major revamp. It needs a major restoration. The feeders which come from Punjab side or Haryana side, they are in a badly depleted position. The carrying capacities, they have been severely compromised. So it's a challenging task. Those feeders, they are 200 kilometers long. IGNP main canal, that itself is 450 kilometers long. Now, the state government, it has taken a major initiative. We had to take Punjab on board. We had to take Government of India on board. So we wanted that all this feeder mechanism, it should be relined, it should be rehabilitated. So we took it up at the appropriate level. And finally, our chief minister, he made the effort to go to Punjab, meet his counterpart in Punjab in Chandigarh. And finally, we could bring all sides on the table. Now with that, we have a 2,000 crore project which is underway. All those feeders which needed rehabilitation, they are getting repaired. The Sarhand feeder and the Indira Gandhi Rajasthan feeder. Now with these feeders being rehabilitated, the water security concerns of IGNP districts for the years ahead, they'll be taken care of. Apart from handling a lot of leakages, lot of waterlogging issues. So IGNP project, it's again a major boost in terms of water security. Then how do we leverage technology in improving our water use efficiencies? So we have chosen to be contemporary. We have chosen to be state of the art. Recently in FICCI, we had these 8th edition national awards, and it gives me legitimate pride to say that our team, it got the special jury award for our initiatives on water resource sector. So Nanalal Kidwai ji, and it was a very distinguished jury, by the way. Mr. Mihir Shah, he is a stalwart in the water sector. I know him personally. So he grilled me for about 1 hour on a one-to-one session, and he headed the jury. He's been chairman Central Water Commission, apart from being a major policy advocate on water issues at international fora. So our focus basically is that we try doing both, investing in new projects, rehabilitating the existing ones, incentivizing the farmers so that they move from the conventional farm practices to drip sprinkler, we take upon ourselves to do basin transfers so that surplus waters from one area, they can be put to the water deficit areas. And lastly, leveraging technology. So SCADA in a big way, we have used in our irrigation dams, in our canal systems. If you happen to visit to say Bisalpur Dam, you will be surprised. We are going to operate all our dam gate operations on scientific algorithm and artificial intelligence. My engineers, they'll not decide. So depending upon what the water data is, the water inflow levels and our requirements, the algorithm will decide how much the gates open and in what sequence and when they stop. So there is nothing manual which is going to be that, okay, there is a call from some influential person, gates will get opened at his discretion. No, all that is going to stop, and we are going to automate all our key dams. So we have done a 1,000 crore project with World Bank. Recently, an honorable chief minister has been kind enough that we take up 36 major dams for total modernization under this program. So this program with World Bank, it will change the local socio-economic milieu, which is fed by those dams. They have both drinking water component, industrial component, and also irrigation component. So I hope I wanted the session to be more interactive so that, some queries which come from the industry or from other players, I can suitably address. But since it's a monologue, I don't want to go on and on. I have so many things to share, but suffice that for the opening session, I'll close by saying that the way forward is that we invest in optimization, we reduce the usage, we try recycling, and we invest heavily in water use efficiency. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir. Sir, I have a point. If you like, we can have a this physical thing in the second half of April, if you agree.
Yeah. Why not?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Noted, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. In fact, we will structure it at that time in a more interactive format, wherein queries from industry and views from your side could be shared. And thank you for sharing the overall perspective. As I mentioned initially, it's always a game changer kind of situation with you. And if we are with the plans that you enumerated just now, it looks like that way. We look forward to working with you more closely in the water space in times to come. Thank you for joining us. And now I would request Mr. Dilip Chenoy, Secretary General FICCI, for his remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Atul, and Mr. Niranjan Kumar Arya, Chief Secretary, Government of Rajasthan, Mr. Naveen Mahajan, Principal Secretary, Water Resources, Government of Rajasthan, Mr. Katsuo Matsumoto, Chief Representative, JICA, Mr. Ashok Kajaria, Chairman, FICCI Rajasthan State Council and CMD Kajaria Ceramics, Mr. Shivanshu Chauhan, Partner, Urban Infrastructure, PwC India, Mr. Randhir Vikram Singh, Co-Chairman, FICCI Rajasthan State Council, and CMD Mandawa Hotels, my colleague Atul, all the attendees logged in this virtual Rajasthan Water Summit. First of all, I was hoping that I'd have the opportunity to congratulate Naveen even before he had started his speech on winning the FICCI award, but a dentist kept me away from that. But anyway, congratulations there. I really appreciate the initiative that the state is taking, the way you have decided on micro and drip irrigation, but the way you are looking at taking initiatives with different states and the central government to address both the feeder system as well as the water availability issues. I think water is a very key resource. Towards the end, you actually focused on farm and others, but I think industry is also a major user. You did mention about the lack of water in Alwar and the challenge it has for industry. But I think all stakeholders actually need to collaborate, and the idea of getting all stakeholders around this webinar was to actually collaborate across different dimensions. And I'll just mention 4 of them. I think the first is collectively, we have to cooperate to reduce water consumption. We need to actually do more with every drop. And because every drop saved is equivalent to actually even 2 drops reduced. The second, and it was very important, which Mr. Mahajan said, we need to synergize and work with all stakeholders, whether it is states, whether it is industry, whether it is farmers, whether it is the people who distribute water, or even I would say to some extent the people who operate tankers and others. We need to enable that to increase supply and ensure that we have 24/7 water supply, but it is used judicially, and we could actually provide water supply in every home in drinking water, which is of course the one of the objectives of the Jal Jeevan mission here. Third, and this was mentioned by Mr. Mahajan, he gave a graphic detail about even artificial intelligently controlled dam opening, etc. But we need to leverage technology to ensure that we actually, when we invest in infrastructure, when we revive existing infrastructure, when we modify the supply routes, we invest in technology so that we can actually get optimum use of water and conserve water going forward. And the fifth, and I just want to leave this for you, Mr. Mahajan. I think like you take pride in the FICCI award, and it's a rigorous process. Mihir, I have to chase him every time to accept to chair the jury and the jury members. But if Rajasthan could consider, for different categories, including industry or something, to actually do a lot of awards here. I actually started my working career in a very water-intensive industry in Malve industrial area. It was a soft drink bottling plant, so there can be very little which is more water-intensive than that. And I realized the importance of water in Rajasthan going. But if we do these awards, it will be a very useful thing. I think industry also has a role and responsibility. We need to reduce our water consumption. We are talking to the automotive dealers to do car wash without water. In fact, the FICCI innovation team actually rewarded a person who has developed a product. You need not use water to have a bath. And I think it is now, the product is there now to work on the psychology, because typically everybody looks at using water for a bath there. FICCI also has taken up initiative to tackle the water crisis. Our Resource Conservation and Management Department of FICCI is providing water audit services to industries across the country, and in fact has in Rajasthan done it to Honda Cars, Borosil, and Cairn, just to name a few. And I believe that this could be taken up in a large way. And I will only leave a thought for industry, and to support what Mr. Mahajan has said, is that we need to take up issues of water management, water stewardship, and water advocacy as part of our DNA going forward. I believe that with such a proactive government and leaders like the Chief Secretary and Mr. Mahajan, I'm sure that collectively we can actually address the challenges that Rajasthan faces in the water. Thank you very much, Mr. Kajaria and Mr. Randhir Vikram Singh, for inviting me to this. And
thanks, Dilip, for joining. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And in fact, water awards is something that we will further discuss with the Principal Secretary, sir. As you might be knowing, there is a VC with by Honorable Prime Minister with the states on this COVID thing, and Chief Secretary sir has got busy with that. So we will miss his presence, but many of you who know him or you don't know him, he is a very dynamic officer, open to ideas, welcoming, and whenever we have reached out to him, he has been very forthcoming and helping. So we will listen to his views and ideas maybe at some other occasion, and we welcome him, thank him for joining initially, but then call of duty was there and he has to leave probably. Maybe if he's listening, we thank him for his presence, sir, and we look forward to a more detailed discussion in due course of time. As Chairman was mentioning, maybe in April mid when we do physically, we will listen to him in a one-to-one basis.
Atul,
Sir.
I think Mr. Chenoy's suggestion that Rajasthan institutes water awards in different sectors, I think it's very welcome, and we'll finalize the template in next 30 days. Take it from us. So I'll sit with my chief secretary, and we'll finalize how we go about it, and we'll announce it possibly in a month or so.
Great, sir. Great. So it can be a takeaway from today that we institutionalize and recognize organizations, industries who are doing commendable work on water management space, maybe within and outside the fence, both. Thank you, sir. Thank you for considering it. And now I would request Mr. Randhir Vikram Singh for his vote of thanks.
Thank you, Atul. Good morning to everybody. I'm pleased to be part of today's deliberations on the critical but often ignored sector, water, and especially for Rajasthan, which is in dire need of water. We need to revisit and relook at some of our old age traditional where households in various parts of the state, especially in areas where water is saline or in desert areas, used to store rainwater for usage for the rest of the year. That was the takas and so many other traditional methods. With increased availability, we have started overusing it, polluting it, leading to a scenario wherein we have depleted our pollution and polluted our reservoirs. We have to strike a balance and look at a better water management practice so that we leave a better world for our future generations. In all sectors of society have to play a vital role. Water harvesting could be one of those things that every household starts doing water harvesting. I'd also like to thank all the speakers and would especially like to thank Mr. Niranjan Arya. Unfortunately, he couldn't be there with us, but he was there for a little while. Chief Secretary, Government of Rajasthan, Mr. Naveen Mahajan, Principal Secretary, Water Resource, Government of Rajasthan, Mr. Matsumoto, Chief Representative, Japan International Cooperation Agency, India. I'd also like to thank our supporters for this program, Hindustan Zinc, Kajaria Ceramics, Mahindra World City. We have a good mix of speakers for the next session, and I'm sure that from the deliberations held today, we can celebrate our achievements at India at 75 and resolve for creating tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. In fact, I would like to say one thing. During my growing years, I had been in Jodhpur, Bikaner, childhood days, and the kind of water that we used to have, saline, fluoride-ridden. So we have traveled quite a distance since then, and this is something that we can congratulate ourselves, compliment the government machinery that we have got past all these things, and we have something to celebrate also. While we have our set of concerns, but there is a big round of applause for Mr. Mahajan, his predecessors, and the entire team. That every day we are sure that we will get a good quality, good taste drinking water at our homes. So thank you, sir. With this, we come to the close of the inaugural session. Any closing comments, or we move to the next session from Mahajan, sir?
I think Jodhpur now has an issue of moving to the other extreme. You have become so water spoiled a city. I have been collector there. The groundwater over there, it's a menace now. It's just like what London was a few years back with all that water wastages. So from tankas to water harvesting, you have moved to the other side of the pendulum. So it's time to wake up and try to reduce those wastages. Otherwise, all your basements in Jodhpur, they are going to become sheer waste.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
With this, we come to the close of the inaugural session. And our next session is on reduce, reuse, recycle, future strategies, innovation, and emerging technologies. Mr. Anuj Bindal, who is member of FICCI Rajasthan State Council and heads the business development at Mahindra World City Jaipur Limited, is the session chairman. So with these words, I would request Mr. Bindal to take charge of the session. Over to you, Mr. Bindal.
Thank you, Atul. So very good afternoon, everyone. I think the virtual world is the new normal. And with this, I would like to start this session. I think as Atul said, it's a very important session, which we are getting into. Firstly, I would like to welcome my eminent panelists and delegates for this session on reduce, reuse, recycle, future strategies, innovation, and emerging technologies. The reduce, reuse, and recycle is also very prominently used as 3 Rs and are extremely important for sustainable growth of human civilization going forward, which will play the path for our existence and future generation. More so for the blue gold, which we refer as water today. Our future depends on sustainable management of water. This increasingly precious resource is essential to life and economic development of every nation in the world. The global population is expected to surpass 10 billion in the second half of this century, which presents immense water resource challenges. Good governance is critical to managing the world groundwater and surface water resources sustainably and prevent over abstraction. The rising water scarcity through the world has stimulated the use of treated water and as alternative option. Wastewater is a valuable resource that can be used beneficially to meet the water supply demands gaps in India. Water and wastewater sector, especially wastewater reuse, has recently started getting attention due to growing water problems, especially in the water scarce cities and states. Urban local bodies and municipalities have implemented reclaimed water reuse projects in many water sensitive cities in the country. There is a large potential for treated water wastewater use in country owing to high quantities of wastewater. Studies show that if 80% of urban wastewater could be treated by 2030, there would be an increase of 400% in volume of available wastewater to reclaim and directly reuse. In view of rising opportunities, the reuse in the industrial and agriculture sector has grown in past decade and is evolving in municipal sector. With this, I would like to invite our first eminent speaker, Dr. S.K. Jain. He is Regional Director, Central Groundwater Board. Dr. Jain has more than 34 years of experience in groundwater surveys, investigation, policy matter on sustainable management of groundwater resources and water quality. He has published more than 50 research papers in national and international seminar journals, etc. His rich experience in implementation of AI, artificial recharge to groundwater projects, widely recognized in India. He is associated in formulating the several important documents on artificial recharge like Master Plan of Artificial Recharge of India, Manual of Artificial Recharge, Bureau of Indian Standards on Artificial Recharge. He worked as international team leader for formulating the ISO technical report on artificial recharge to groundwater, which have been published by ISO Geneva, Switzerland. He is main architect for conceptualization and drafting of aquifer mapping scheme, Ministry of Water Resources, which is being implemented by CGWB. At present, he is Regional Director, CGWB, Western Region, Jaipur, looking after the state Rajasthan. With this, I would request Dr. S.K. Jain for his keynote address.
Thank you, Bindal sir, for the nice introduction. I think I am audible. Am I audible to all? I think.
Sir, you are audible.
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. I welcome all the participants who are joining today this Rajasthan Water Summit, which is organized by FICCI. I am very thankful to FICCI for inviting me. in this great occasion. It is preceding to the World Water Day, which we are going to celebrate few days later. I am actually delighted to listen that everybody is expressing the concern about the scarcity of water in all the fields and the ways and means to manage it on sustainable basis is being discussed nowadays, I think, in all the forum, and the due importance to this sector now is being realized. The groundwater is a major resource which is not only catering to the irrigation sector, but it is predominantly catering to the domestic and industrial sector. And in Rajasthan, it is really predominant. I would like to focus more on the Rajasthan because it is a Rajasthan Water Summit. But if you compare the whole scenario in this country, the Rajasthan has got the disadvantage in terms of the availability of water resources. Either you talk per capita or you talk about the geographical area. So Rajasthan has got the big challenge, and all the stakeholders, they need to come really seriously on board to see that how they can work on this triple R, which we are now pertinently discussing: reduce, reuse, and recycle. I think the first word, reduce, I would say, is the major thing which can help us to overcome the scarcity. So the reduce part, if we compare in Rajasthan, we have around 12 BCM of groundwater resources on annual basis, which is available to us from the rainfall recharge in principle. So out of this 12 BCM, we are now exploiting around 17 BCM. It comes to 140%. 40% water we are overdrawing. So this 40% on annual basis compounds to 400% in 10 years. We can imagine the resource availability in Rajasthan is not so much that we can afford to lose 400% of water in 10 years. And then we say that it is not sustainable after 10 years. We have to think very seriously in this area. So this gap of 5 BCM per day, that's 17 we are drawing. We are supposed to draw not more than 12 BCM. How to reduce this 5 BCM is a big question. So some part of that, major part of that can definitely come from the reducing our consumption in all the field. And certainly the major consumption is in agriculture sector. So the major reforms have to come in that sector. But the industrial and domestic sector can also be the focus of our this reduce program. I think that there is a scope to reduce at least up to 1 BCM. Out of this 5 BCM, we have the overdrawal, and this 1 BCM overdrawal mainly from domestic and industrial sector will certainly help to ease their problems. So this 1 BCM, we have just roughly worked out that there is a scope to reduce it through the better technology, water use efficient technologies, and 1 BCM we can go through the reuse and recycle. This reuse and recycle, we are trying to have certain provisions in our groundwater NOCs. When the Central Groundwater Authority examines the cases for NOC clearances, we have imposed a condition for infrastructure projects that whosoever draws more than 20 KLD, 20 kiloliters per day water, they are supposed to have STP plant in their premises. Unless that is committed, the NOC will not be granted. Such things are coming up to tackle the grim scenario we are likely to face. We must, I think, sincerely work on this technology, that how we can provide a affordable, efficient technology so that the small enterprises, the small entities, they adopt happily this STP plants in their small prices conveniently and suiting to their budget requirements and all those things. So industries definitely need to focus on the small enterprises, and probably once we involve more and more people, this 1 BCM target may be achievable. This can work in a wonderful way in all the urban pockets where the use of water is more than rural areas because the per capita water is allowed more in urban areas. So this is what I would just in brief say, because time is limited. I will not go much into the details aspects of the groundwater scenario in the Rajasthan, but I will say this is one thing. And second thing is the salinity issue we face in Western Rajasthan, where the geogenic quality of the groundwater is a saline, and those resources are there, but the use of these resources for agriculture purpose and for drinking purpose is not fit. Though some industries are now coming up, they are starting using that, and probably that kind of technology has to be brought in where the saline water use can be promoted on a large scale. So these are the focus areas where if we can focus, we will get more resources through the reduce, recycle and reuse way. This is what I would like to say, that in Rajasthan, the statistics is very, very clear that out of the 295 assessment units we assess in Rajasthan, only 45 are supposed to be safe, where the groundwater utilization is less than 70% of the annual replenishable quantity. In remaining blocks, it is more than that, and the overexploitation is to the extent of 67% of the area is affected by that. And in the country, if you see that 3 lakh square kilometer in Rajasthan is overexploited. If you compare with Punjab and Haryana together, it is 3 times more than that. This is the situation. I would request that all stakeholders must sincerely come forward and see that our RRR program gets in a more mission mode, and people, they come themselves. Not only the big players, the small stakeholders also join this program. Thank you very much to the FICCI for inviting me again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Jain, for your keynote address. I think, you highlighted some very important points with regard to consumption reforms in key sectors, apart from continued focus in terms of reuse and recycle. And I think it's a very important point you raised in terms of use of the salinated water and the technology around it, because desalination, as we all are aware, is a very expensive proposition. Unless and until there is a volume, it becomes a very difficult technology to implement. But I agree with this state like Rajasthan, we need to really look at some of these things. Okay. Plus, I think water exploitation, Dr. Jain, you rightly said, is something is more of a personal hygiene and routine, which we all need to really look at in our life. And that's probably the way, starting from individual to organization to communities, that could be implemented. So with this, thank you once again, Dr. Jain, to be here. With this, I would like to now invite our second speaker, Mr. T.M. Nagarajan. He is Vice President and Head Wipro Water. He is responsible for leading the business strategy and aligning focus towards defining innovative tech solutions, creating market niches, and operational strategy. He has over 32 years of experience in the water industry. So with this, over to you, Mr. Nagarajan.
Thank you, Mr. Bindal. I will share my presentation. I will just check if it is. Is that visible now to all of you? You are able to see my screen, Mr. Bindal?
Not yet, Mr. Nagarajan.
Okay, you should be able to get it now. If you're not able to get, then I will go ahead with my talk. I think you're able to see it now or not?
No, sir. What I'll do, I will run it from my end. You just...
Yeah, if you don't mind, yeah, please do that. So I will, yeah, I think it is visible now to me at least. So, okay. So thank you very much and distinguished guests, panel members, and everyone else of the audience who is present here. I would like to go to the next slide. If you say about, I would like to talk about sewage recycle and reuse. What are the technological choices available? And what are the high viability areas that will render itself suitable for reuse? And if you have any questions, I will go to the next slide, where people have talked about water stress. Typically, what has been said in the inaugural session is that one is the per capita consumption is going up and the water availability is coming down, leading to what is known as water stress. And if you read typically the newspapers, especially in the city of Mumbai and various other places, simultaneously you will find the headlines highlighting the flood during the monsoon, and in the next page you will perhaps get there is a water scarcity. So it leads us to believe that it's very important to manage this. That is very important. And my focus today would be to how to manage this from demand side, more from supply side. One of the points that was mentioned by the Honorable Principal Secretary of Water Resources, Mr. Mahajan, he said that it is, one is important to build assets, and second is to utilize these assets for better performance. I think that is a very valid point. And we also have situations which I will highlight in which how the assets can be utilized in a better manner so that the water can be conserved. And one more point was mentioned that integrated utilities, Mr. Chauhan mentioned about this, that's a very important thing. For example, simultaneous production of water and power is a topic that it is being currently explored by the industry. With this background, typically there is a seasonal scarcity that results in companies. Next slide, please. Water footprint and the industrial belts. Certain industrial belts are susceptible to seasonal, difficulties. And typically the groundwater, which is being overexploited, as said by Mr. Jain, also has got its own mineral contents and stuff like that. So there is a possibility that there may be alternate, we can go to the next slide. There may be alternate sources of water which can be used for recycle. One such thing mentioned was about seawater desalination. So if you see seawater desalination, access to seawater may not be available in an area like in a state like Rajasthan. And second thing is, even in coastal areas where it is available, if the quantity of the water involved is not so very high, the economies of scale render itself not very suitable from the point of view of treatment costs, and it is highly energy intensive. Industrial wastewater that comes out of the industry is also not very homogeneous in nature. So to a large extent, you will find there are complex contaminants, and you may possibly be able to recycle to some extent. So, but what is the most suitable thing for recycle is, my case is that it is the treated sewage as a source of feed water. It is like captive power production. Every industry, it is possible to produce captive water. For example, that is one of the cheapest alternate sources for available for the industrial use. High chance of availability from centralized and decentralized sewage treatment plants. And we have sufficient data to prove that there is a lot of sewage that has to be treated, and tertiary treated sewage is available. We go to the next slide. I will not get into the details of the technology options that is available. All that I just wanted to mention is sewage water has got certain BOD, COD. If you go from the bottom to the top, that it has got suspended solids, it has got nitrogen, phosphorus, which is nutrients. And conventionally, people use this grandmother's recipe, which is activated sludge process, sequential batch reactors, membrane bioreactors. So different things have got their utility with respect to the treated water it can produce. If you really take the high-end production for the industrial use, which would involve any one of or a combination of this, would have a reverse osmosis and a completely demineralized water. So that is the hierarchy of deployment of technology with respect to the quality of water that you need for different application. If we go to the next slide, what are the choices that are available for sewage treatment? One, like I said, is a suspended growth process, which is activated sludge process, and attached growth processes like MBBR, moving bed bioreactors, MBR, biofilter, sequential batch reactors. So everything has got its, like I mentioned, SBRs will be able to remove the nutrients, and activated sludge process is very robust, but it occupies more space. Moving bed bioreactors are very efficient. It occupies less space. Membrane bioreactors can directly recycle the water to the maximum extent possible. We go to the next slide. Then in case of tertiary treatment, ultrafiltration systems which are used and reverse osmosis plants that are used can be able to reduce the dissolved solids in water. All these technologies will obviously have some unintended consequences, which all of us know, that is the reject that it produces or the wastewater that it produces. It has to be treated and managed. But it is possible, if you go to the next slide, it is possible to deploy these technologies. In the inaugural session, people mentioned about import of technologies. I think the Indian companies are highly capable today to absorb the available technologies that is internationally available to deploy them in India. Typically, if you look at the economic considerations, this gives some idea. All that I just wanted to say is, one is to do with the water tariff. It's about 40 to 65 rupees per cubic meter. And at that level, still for the industry, the recycling of the water becomes viable. We can use simple sand filtration, use that treated water, we call it grade 1 water. There will be some recovery for issue. You recover not 100% of it. Then you use ultra or micro filtration, where you can use that water for a little higher grade application. And then reverse osmosis, ultraviolet treatment, and demineralization. Even if you go to the highest purity level, where you will be able to recover about 70% of the treated sewage water, it approximately works out, depending on the pollutants that it contains and the level of automation that you need, it will cost about 65 rupees per metric cube. So this is a case, no more, it is not a question of cost viability, it is also a question of discipline. When the thing is not just available, you will have to go for these options. And it also makes economic and business sense to use treated water sewage for recycle and other applications. If you go to the next options, you also have to consider, while calculating the economics, the next slide, cost of transmission with respect to collecting the sewage. There are decentralized sewage treatment plants available. There are centralized sewage. So collection of this sewage and bringing it to a level where it has to be treated will also have some cost consideration. And getting a homogeneous quality of the sewage treated water is no more an issue because there is a consistent treatment and tertiary treatment treated waters of sewage is fairly consistent with respect to the quality that is available. If you go to the next slide, we talk about what is the high viability areas for industry use, which are the industries that guzzle water and which are the industries that render itself more suitable for recycling. One of the things is power plant. Most of the power plants consume a lot of water. In fact, gas-based power plants use a lot of water for their cooling purpose. Chemical process industries use for a lot of water. So these industries have already started focusing on increasing the cycle of concentration, thereby reducing the intake of the water, ash water recycling. So many other initiatives are taken, especially in power and steel plants, to reduce the water. Next slide. The other areas for reuse is not just industry. I think commercial sector, the real estate sector or the commercial buildings, software technology parks and so on is highly viable. And it is possible to recycle the sewage that is produced from there to treat it and recycle. The only thing that we need to take care of is at the time of construction of these facilities, we should be able to do the plumbing properly so that the drinking and the other water that comes in direct contact with the human beings is distinctly different from the ones that is used for flushing purpose. So with this, I would like to conclude by saying that asset utilization of the existing plants that I mentioned earlier is possible by better operation maintenance practices, revamp and retrofit of the existing systems, remote operations and automation and so on. So I would like to say the technological solutions are available. It is possible to reuse treated sewage, treat the sewage and use it as a raw water resource for downgraded applications in the industry, and that is eminently viable. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Natarajan, for your keynote address. I think, you highlighted some of the very important points around integrated utility network, waste management, reuse standard, sewage treatment technologies, and some of the sectors which are water guzzling where treated water can be used. And I think they are very important points to be highlighted from both in terms of use and technology integration. I think it's an effort which has to be taken up collectively, both by industry as well as by the government, to ensure how we can reduce dependency on the fresh water to the grey water. So thank you, Mr. Nagarajan. With this, I would like to invite Mr. Mayan Mula. He is a senior advisor and India head Water Jain Israel. He is also a co-founder of Cirrus Clouds Ventures, an international business development, project management, and advisory services. He has a track record of identifying and sharing best practices and technologies related to agribusiness, water business development between Israel and Indian governments and companies. Considering, Rajasthan and Israel are probably a similar arid states, where water availability is much lesser, and we need to continue to adopt and evolve. I think it would be very interesting to hear Mr. Mula how he has been looking at in terms of technologies around water and the 3 Rs. Over to you, Mr. Mula.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yeah, that's loud and clear, Mr. Mula.
Great.
Please.
Thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate your I really appreciate the investigation. Can you hear me? Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. So thank you very much again for that you invite me to the summit. It's I think it's a very, very important summit, and one of the great things that I can say, I'm here during the summit, and I can say that it sounds that we are speaking all of us together on the holistic solution for a country like Rajasthan, for a state like Rajasthan. And yes, I totally agree with you about the similarity of Rajasthan and Israel compares to the weather and less water source and the water problem in all the sectors, from drinking safety water to all the way to agriculture, protocol, drip irrigation, micro irrigation, and so on and so forth. I would like to speak today about water gen. I will share my screen. Can you see it?
Yes, we can see it.
Great.
To make it full screen.
I will try to do it. Okay, if it's okay like that, I will work on the presentation as is, but I don't know why.
No problem. You can just carry on.
Yeah. One second. I don't know why I cannot move the screen. No, I cannot control it.
I will do it from my end. You just speak.
Now, can you see when I move it?
Yes, it's moving.
Yeah, great. So I will try to not repeat on all what the gentleman here during the summit spoke, but I just want to mark a few points that the water equation is based on the source and transportation, as all of us spoke. If we are looking historical, the life has always developed around drinking water source. From the earliest men that used to settle the villages near to lakes and the rivers, and during the years when the villages and the cities developed, we found that we found more challenges about the transportation, how to transport the water from the source to the city, and when I'm looking on the world water source as for today, and we're looking on the future, I can say that yes, on 2025, on 2030, the global population will grow, and as well the water needs will grow, and at the same time we have a huge problem about a fresh water drinking source and also any groundwater source. Although I would like to say that WaterGen as a company coming in a place that they're trying to solve the problem of drinking water from a few aspects, from the source and the quality, and from the transportation challenge. And WaterGen solution provide us a new source of drinking water. The WaterGen extract clean drinking water directly from the humidity in the atmosphere. I'm pretty sure that a few of you already hear about it, and I would like to explain how we are working in a minute. Second, I will open the presentation, the right page. So, what is the technology behind WaterGen? WaterGen first WaterGen was provide the pioneer technology, the first technology in the world about collect water from the air and to make it drinkable water. The company is already 13 years in the market and running with a lot of experience with the global clients and the global partners, with more than 80 countries and partners around the world. The technology based on the 4 steps. First of all, we are collecting the air from the area, and then with our patent, the Jain patent, what we can see on the point number 2, we split between the humidity, the water that's in the air, to the air. We collect all the air, all the water in a tank, and then we are doing a filtration and UV process, and then we are adding water, mineral to the water, and you can get the top quality of drinking water from the machine, from the air, from the area. I said before that we have a huge experience in the global market, and here you can see the places, the locations that we are located in the global. As you can see, the machine and our technology, our machines and the technology cannot work in any place. We need a climate conduction of humidity and temperature that will be suitable to the machine to help and collect the water from the air. But when we are looking on Rajasthan, and I will mention that we are in those days, in these days, we are doing some project with NDMA and NDRF in Rajasthan on a pilot. The first step is a pilot with a machine, one of our machine, to try and work in Rajasthan. As we know, as Rajasthan is a very difficult climate condition because the temperature most of the year are super high during the day and cold at night, and the humidity are not so high. So it's a bit challenge for us as well. But I can say that we, in the last 2 months, we are running on the pilot, and we know how to provide water from air also in Rajasthan. Not in a high quantity, but still we know how to provide water in a desert area with a difficult climate condition like Rajasthan. And our idea is to not change the recycling water. We are not here to be the only source of water, but we are here to help and to upgrade villages and places that they don't have any source of water. They don't have any, or they have a problem with transportation, or with any, they don't have any pipeline of water. So in those places, we can help to provide a drinking water for the population, for the citizens, like we are doing in many countries in Latin America, in Asia, in Africa. And I think this is something that can help to create the holistic solution for a state like Rajasthan. A bit information about the technology. So our technology, you can see here, working from 15 degrees Celsius and up, and 20% humidity and up. So in Rajasthan, when you're looking on the annual climate average, I can say that from our analyzed, we will be super suitable to the needs in between the months May to October. But in between November to April, it will be difficult for us to provide water. And for that, because that we found a solution that during the year we will storage the water and then the civilians can use, the people can use the water also in those months that it's very difficult to provide water during the day. So the machine working 24/7, and we have different type of machines from 27-liter machine all the way up to 5,000-liter machine per day. As I said, the machine working 24/7. The energy effect, the power consumption of our machines are very low compared to the other companies that are trying to provide water from air. And when you are looking in the end on the cost per liter, so it will be much more cost effective than to start sending trucks or to build a new infrastructure for drinking water. Again, I will mention we are speaking about drinking water, not for agriculture or any other needs. We have international certifications from all over the world, the top certification that we can get. This is our machines that we are, this is the application that we have as for now, the 5,000 to 6,000 liters machine, and 800 liters machine, 27 liter machine. And also we have automotive solutions that you can connect to your car. It's called a box. And then the box will provide you 5 to 10 liters per day. I will mention that we are working in our R&D center in Israel right now on a solution for the Indian market with a box technology that will integrate to a solar power, and then you can put in any village one box with one panel of solar that will provide average of 7 liters of drinking water for each house in places that you don't have any water source. That technology will be ready, will be commercial in the next 3 months. So you can see that we have for all kinds of activities or needs, from school and universities, hospitalities, commercial centers, army camps, and national disasters, so on and so forth. In the end, what I can say about our technology, that our technology is providing a new source of drinking water, very, very suitable to a lot of places. We have the right international certificates. We are speaking about the top quality of drinking water compared to any other mineral water that you can find in any market. It's a safe solution and a green solution. And in the end, we are here to help and support any needs of the Rajasthan government or any other state in India. Thank you very much for your time, and I really appreciate your invitation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Mullah, for your sharing us with technology, which can extract water from air. I think it's a very, very important and an innovative technology, because there are places in India where transportation of even water would be extremely challenging, as you rightly mentioned. And some of these rural areas, if government can work closely with you in terms of putting up such technologies, there would be many water requirement situations can be taken care. So maybe I would request Atul from FICCI and members from FICCI, if they can take you to the government as well as see, how this can work around. It will be very helpful. Plus, I will also get in touch with you, Mr. Mullah, because we run a pretty large integrated city here in Jaipur. Maybe some of your technologies can be very helpful for us as well as our clients. So thank you. And with this, I would like to now invite our next panelist, which is Mr. Pradeep Singh. He is Corporate Head, Environment and Sustainability, Hindustan Zinc Limited. And he's been driving the sustainable business practices and taking the organization towards the zero harm, zero leakage, and zero waste. So over to you, Mr. Singh.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Bindal. Can you help me in sharing this presentation? Actually, I'm not able to share from my screen.
I will share from here, sir. And
yeah, please. Thank you. Can you go on this PPT mode, display mode? Yeah, first of all, thank you, FICCI, for organizing in this Rajasthan Water Summit and giving this opportunity to us to present our best practices on water stewardship. In this brief presentation, I will share about in this Hindustan Zinc in brief, as well as our this policy and governance and strategy towards water stewardship. Please come in the next slide, please. Yeah, this is some brief. We are leading integrated producer of zinc and lead. On mining front, we are second largest globally, as well as on smelting front, we are fourth largest. We are also sixth largest silver producer in the world, and of course, lowest zinc and lead cost producer of the world. Our Rampura Gusha mine is one of the largest lead zinc underground mine in the world, and Sindhsarpur, that is SK mine, that has been ranked third largest mine in the world. As far as the sustainability is concerned, we have been ranked number one in metal and mining sector in Asia Pacific region in DJSI, that is Dow Jones Sustainability Index. And on environmental front, we are in top three. We are in second position in metal and mining sector globally. We have been featured in this Sustainability Yearbook 2021 by S&P Global and Rebecca Shem as one of the sustainability leaders. We are also members of FTSE for Good Emerging Index based on our ESG performance. And this year, we have been rated as a rated company in our carbon disclosure CDP 2020 project. Please come to the next slide. This is with respect to policy and governance. So water stewardship is always one of the most critical element of our sustainability framework. In Hindustan Zinc, we have all our sites have implemented integrated management system, and this integrated management system is aligned with the Vedanta Sustainability Framework, ISO 14001, ISO 9001, and this 18001. We are having different policies, water management water management policies there. And as per this, already our water management policy outlines our commitments towards water stewardship. It is already written in right. I will give some example of it is given in right hand this side. Hindustan Zinc recognize the social, economic, and environmental values of water and the increasing global and local concern of water scarcity. Water is key resource and needs to be used responsibly in balancing the needs of many different users. Apply a zero discharge philosophy, application of best available technique, participate in local or regional water catchment planning activities to secure sustainable water resources. Uh, I would like to inform to this forum, we have also we are also signatory of this CEO water mandate and taking different steps as per their direction. Please come to the next slide. Yeah, I would like to focus here to improve any this performance related to this water management or water stewardship. First of all, this governance structure should be very strengthened. In Hindustan Zinc, we have set ambitious the sustainable targets goals for 2025, and there are we have taken goals on 8 strategic themes, and water is one of them. You can see the second number, that is 5x water positive company, and achieve 25% reduction in freshwater consumption by 2025. All these 8 goals are supported. There is a sustainability committee chaired by our CEO, and this committee is meeting on quarterly basis, and all these goals are driven by communities. There are 8 communities, and we are also having water community chaired by one of our senior leaders, senior leader. The main, I will share one of the main output, like this has been initiated last year June only, and this committee is also conducting brainstorming sessions, and till now in last 8 months, in all those sessions, they have been able to generate around 80 ideas, and out of implementation of those ideas, we have been able to save 10,000, around 10,000 KL per day of water in our process. Please come to the next slide. Yeah. We have been certified as a water positive company, and we are 2.41 times water positive company. This has been assured by DNB last year only, and as per our goal, we are targeting to become 5 times water positive company by 2025, and this has been possible only due to our strategies. Our strategy, now I will give some examples what we have implemented, like Mr. Nagarajan has said about the possibility of STP treated water utilization. So already we are having very good example in our in Hindustan Zinc. So our strategy is basically focused how we can reduce freshwater consumption at our operation. That may be achieved through technology interventions or through you can say utilization of some recycled water, then increasing the use of more recycled water, then replenish groundwater, and finally audit and operational improvement. Next slide, please. Yeah, in minimizing fresh water, this is very good example. In actually, we have established our Daribai smelter complex in 2019. Of course, we have faced some severe water issues. Then in 2013-14, we have established first sewage treatment plant of Udaipur. Udaipur is generating around 60 mld of this sewage in because this was the first case. Of course, we have to use this treated sewage in our power plant and smelting process. That's why we have in phase 1 we have established only 20 mld sewage treatment plant in 2013-14. Then after successful utilization of this water in our Daribai smelter in 2018-19, we have again established another sewage treatment plant of 25 mld. Now at present we have established 4 numbers of sewage treatment plant in Udaipur out of total 60 mld. Out of that 40 mld water is used in our process, and we have been able to replace 90% of water, 90% of fresh water with this sewage treatment in our treated sewage in our Daribai smelter complex. That is where this is very good example, and we are also exploring the same opportunity in other cities like Chittorgarh, Ajmer, Bhilwara. So we are all to replace our freshwater consumption in the our facilities near to those areas. Then we are having integrated effluent treatment plant facilities in our all premises, like in our smelters. There are 2 parts. Our all these effluents are coming to effluent treatment plant. Further to recovery of this or reutilization of this treated this effluent, we are having double stage RO system, followed by seawater RO. Then we are also having a multiple effective evaporator and MVR, and ultimately we are ensuring zero discharge and good quantum of this water is recycled. And one thing is I would like to hear this treated effluent is in quality aspect, with respect to quality, it is better than our raw water, because in most of the case in our raw water is our sewage water, where the TDS is around 1000 to 1200, and we are getting around 100 to 200 of this TDS from these our ETP. Then there are some technologies I will give example, like to further reduce our fresh water consumption. We have installed adiabatic cooling towers. We have installed air cooled condensers and able to around save around 3000 to 5000 KL per day of fresh water. We are having 5 mines in Rajasthan, and also having a beneficiation process. In beneficiation process, tailing is generated, and this tailing is disposed in tailing dam, and transported in slurry form. This slurry is settled down in this tailing dams, and ultimately supernatant water is again recycled in the system, in our system. and we 30 to 40% evaporation loss was there. So we have established this is third photo is of dry tilling plant. We have established Asia's first dry tilling plant in our Java mines, and have been able to, last year only this was commissioned, and have been able to recycle 3,000 kl per day of water from that plant. After successful commissioning of this plant, now we have decided by 2025 in all our like Gajpura Riva, in this Agucha, all our mines or beneficiation plants will be supported by this dry tilling plant facilities only. And fourth one is with respect to the harvesting water. So already this was initiated long back by Hindustan Zinc. Hindustan Zinc was partnered with the state government for the development of this all rainwater harvesting structures, dams, and we are having our own captive dams in Jawar, that is TD Dam. Then we have also partnered with government for the development of Gosunda Dam and Mansivakal Dam. Ultimately, this surface water is we have provided developed all those structures, and water is using from those areas. At the same time, as far as this rainwater harvesting or groundwater recharge is concerned, because we are falling under red categories, our industries is having chemicals, so that's why we are not promoting rainwater harvesting or recharge inside my premises. Of course, we have taken all those interventions in the community or nearby areas. Inside our smelters and all this, we are having stormwater ponds where all these rainfall is collected inside the stormwater ponds, and ultimately this water is again reused in our system as per their quality, or it is being sent. If a quality is okay, good, so it is directly used in our system. Otherwise, it is sent to the effluent treatment plant, and we are further reusing it. As far as this rainwater harvesting structures and community is concerned, we have been partnered with the state government in Mukhyamantri Jal Swalambhan Yojana, and also constructed more than 120 structure rainwater harvesting structures in 50 villages across 4 districts of Rajasthan. We have also partnered with Maharana Pratap, this University of Agriculture Technology, for comprehensive study, and developed rainwater harvesting structures in 8 villages nearby in Rajpura Dariva in Rasamand area, and quantity is around 6. This potential rainwater harvesting potential is around 6 lakhs cubic meter per this annum. This previous speakers has told about this poor water quality. So because we are as a responsible corporate, we are also ensuring that good potable water is available to all these nearby communities, and we have installed 8 mother ROs and 70 standalone ATMs, so that this good potable water is available to our nearby these residents. So this is, sir, these are some initiatives on waterfront. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. I think it was very interesting to see through your presentation and the points you mentioned. I think it is highly commendable what Hindustan Zinc has done in terms of initiatives towards sustainable development, reuse of waste and grey water, not only from an industry perspective, but also in terms of larger community. So I think, there are learnings which probably some of us can also adopt from the things which have been taken up by Hindustan Zinc. So thank you. With this, I would like to now invite our next and the last speaker, Mr. Rahul Bakare. He's a founder and CEO of Urdhav Environmental Technologies Private Limited. He comes with 25 years of experience with various corporates before founding Urdhav Environment Technologies. His company specializes in environmental sustainability consulting and solution. And before founding Urdhav, he has worked in many prestigious organizations across India and US. So with this, I would request Mr. Bakare to address the audience, please.
Actually, I'm not able to start the video sharing or the presentation mode.
You can start speaking the moment I receive your presentation. I will run it from here.
Okay, sounds great. Sounds great. So, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks, FICCI, for giving us this opportunity to present. Myself, Rahul Bakre. I am representing a company called as Environmental Technologies Private Limited. We are a company that is incubated in Ahmedabad and by Startup OSCC in Jaipur. We have developed a very unique solution to revive falling groundwater levels. So just to give you background, our company is involved in specifically water management, that too in groundwater management. We undertake big projects for industries as well as for CSRs, NGOs, individuals on groundwater mapping, groundwater budgeting, recharge structure designs, abstraction design, groundwater pollution studies, groundwater pollution mitigation strategies as well. So we have worked on a wide range of things in the past. So we provide these services today as well, but today I'll be talking more on a product which is our flagship product called as Bore Charger. Bore Charger, as you know, India receives fantastic amount of rainfall during the 3 or 4 months of the monsoon, and after that we start really using the water. During the monsoon, we really don't use much of water, but we start using the water post that. So 8-9 months worth water needs to be stored. So we have done tremendous amount of work since last 40-50 years in terms of stopping the water which is flowing to the sea and converting that into surface water bodies, or recharging the surface water into groundwater as such. But unfortunately, that water is not sufficient because a lot of it goes into evaporative losses. It goes into base flows which form and they go to the sea. The base flows become rivers and they go to the sea. At the same time, bore wells has become the most prolific and most preferred way of abstraction of groundwater. And this is where the problem lies, is that bore wells typically are drilled up to 200-600 feet depth. What bore well we see actually is a casing pipe which is put up to the first hard rock layer, through which the water in the topmost aquifer doesn't enter. The example of this is that during rainy season, the topmost aquifer, being very porous in nature, absorbs huge amounts of water. But because of the casing pipe, what we insert into the borewell, the water from the topmost aquifer is not able to enter into the borewell. So borewells typically get water from the deeper aquifers, which are 200, 400, 600 feet deep. And for the natural recharge to reach those 200 feet, of time. And so there is the imbalance abstraction versus recharge, natural reach rates. This imbalance, less and very abstraction rate, results into borewells or seasonal borewells. So every well typically gives water during its initial years, but overall in the part of the its life, it starts giving less and less water because of the imbalance. So how can we stop this imbalance, and how can we improve the low yielding borewells and dried up borewells make productive again? Because in Indian context, there is 3.5 to 4 crore borewells which have already been dug, and those borewells unfortunately are currently used only as abstraction structures. Nobody is recharging those borewells, especially the deeper aquifers. So we have developed this unique patented technology called as Bore Charger. Okay, I think the presentation is on. So this is our technology, Bore Charger, which is into reviving of the borewell. So no, just one slide back. 4.5 crore borewells are, no, if you go up a little bit. Yeah, thanks. So we are abstracting groundwater mindlessly, right? And that's what is creating huge problems. There's a lot of loss of agriculture production which is faced by the farmers. Because of that, there is indebtedness and farmer suicides are happening. Drinking water scarcity is everywhere. In spite of very good rainfall in the Indian context, we are not able to store this water. This is creating huge problem with respect to drinking water scarcity. Water quality issues are coming up everywhere, like arsenic, fluoride, salt water intrusion, so many other things. And in an urban context, increased cost of water for urban habitations is creating a huge problem for India. Next, please. So the root cause, as I mentioned, of the low yielding and dry bore wells is that recharge and discharge rates are in imbalance. Natural recharge rate, for example, to reach up to 200 feet, the rainwater takes years and decades, and to reach up to 600 feet, it takes thousands of years. But our abstraction rate is much faster, hence there is an imbalance, and slowly bore wells start giving less and less and less water. So we have developed this unique technology called as bore charger, in which we undertake an angiography of the bore well by putting an underwater camera system into the bore well. We study the geology, hydrogeology, hydrology around the bore well, and then we put our robotic tool into the bore well, and then we perforate the casing pipe of a bore well from inside. So this is an existing bore well which doesn't have any perforations made to its casing, because of which the water from the topmost aquifer, which gets replenished with crores of liters of water, it's not able to get into the bore well. So we make these perforations at hydrogeological appropriate depth, so that only clean water can enter from the topmost unconfined aquifer into the bore well. This water directly falls to 400, 600 feet, whatever is the depth of the bore well, and that water basically recharges the bore well at a much, much faster rate than the naturally it would get recharged. Next, please. Next, please. So this is the robotic tool what we have developed inside a bore well. It undertakes this angioplasty, where when we make the perforation, the water oozes into the bore well, because the water exists in the topmost unconfined aquifer outside the casing, but it is not able to come in. So this is the water which we typically see in an open well, which is quite filtered water, quite clean water. And this is the water which is not accessible for recharge for a bore well. When we make these perforations, it starts coming in and it directly recharges the deeper aquifers. And anyway, we have taken crores of liters of water out in the lifespan of that bore well. That amount of storage space is available in the deeper aquifers. So what we are doing in effect is that during rainy season and post rainy season as well, whatever is the water which gets accumulated in the topmost aquifer, we let it go into the bore well, and this fresh new water supply, which directly goes to the deeper aquifer, increases the quantum which is stored, at the same time quality, because it avoids all the rock layers in between. So the quality also improves drastically. Next slide, please. Yeah, so these are some of the actual pictures of the water jet coming into the bore well, and we have seen hundreds and thousands of such jets coming into the bore well and recharging the dried up bore wells. Next, please. So bore charger and impact and uniqueness is that we are able to increase the recharge rate 4 to 20 times compared to what natural recharge does, because of the artificial injection of water into the bore well. Second of all, compared to the pit-based recharge of bore wells, we are 3 to 5 times cheaper, and bore charger is more efficient and effective, because it doesn't need any surface water body, because we are taking water from the compost unconfined aquifer and recharging the deeper aquifers. We are able to increase the duration of water supply from 1 to 6 months, and are able to recharge between 2 lakh to 80 lakh liters of water per bore well per year without any maintenance, right? So that's a beauty of this. It doesn't need any space, it doesn't need any construction. It's a simple angiography and angioplasty done by experts, and that solves the problem of deeper aquifer recharge of bore wells. Next, please. So these are some of the successful case studies. Farmers who were able to get maybe 2 hours. So first farmer who was in a drought-prone regions of Maharashtra has been able to get water. He used to get water for 2 hours per day. Now he started getting water for 9 hours per day. Nabi Saab, who's a farmer from Karnataka, North Karnataka, Bidar district, Telangana. So he was getting water only for 15 minutes a day. He started getting water during last summer for 6 hours per day. And the water level improved from 450 feet to 150 feet. That's a tremendous improvement we have seen. And Rakesh Koti, being an urban guy, he was spending a lot of money on tanker water. He was able to get tremendous amount of water, and he solved his problem. Next, please. Yeah. Yeah, actually, so we are developing this as a franchise model, and then we are trying to scale up this operation all across India. Next, please. So we have done 950 plus implementations, and cumulatively we have been able to recharge 157 crore liters of water in last 2 years. We have positively impacted 64,000 people for their drinking water, as well as agricultural, industrial and domestic usages as well. We have done implementations in 8 states and in West Africa as well. Next, please. We also undertake groundwater scanning services, because the current groundwater identification is done by Nariyalwalas or diviners, and we want to change that situation by providing groundwater scanning services which are based on scientific evidence, such as using methods such as vertical electrical sounding and vertical magnetic resonance techniques. Next, please.
Mr. Rahul, I would just request you to please quickly
Sure.
close the presentation.
This is a couple of last. Yeah.
Time,
Yeah. We are also developing groundwater monitoring sensors. Next, please. So this is my background from IIM Calcutta and Michigan State University, and my partner, who is trained hydrogeologist from Germany. Next, please. So we are invested in by IIM Ahmedabad, Wilgrow, HDFC, IIT Hyderabad, Hindustan Unilever, etc. Next, please. And we have as a matter of fact, and this is a new unit patented bore charger, which is called reviving of the dead bore wells or low yielding bore wells, and that's it.
So thank you, Mr. Bakare, for your sharing the technology around bore recharger. I think, the amount of bore wells which are being installed nowadays in the urban areas, I think this is something which will really help in terms of also recharging them, and a continuity in terms of availability of water. And maybe through FICCI, I would like, maybe this technology could be taken up with the state government and the central government as well, which can also probably reduce a bit of a pressure on our groundwater, as well as, probably bring in more technology. So, with this, do we have still time for an open session, or should I just do the concluding remarks?
I would suggest we take 1 minute closing comments from all the speakers and then you sum up the session. That would be.
Okay. So I think, without naming any speaker, I would just request anyone, would like to just kind of a sum up with probably a minute to say as a summary point, and we can probably just conclude this in over next 4 to 5 minutes.
Yeah, thank you, sir. This is Pradeep from Hindustan Zinc. First of all, I would like to thank FICCI for organizing such a great event, at least in Rajasthan, because already Rajasthan is more this water scarce area. And of course, such physical programs should be there, and we would love to share our best practices, what we have implemented in our in these plans. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
In fact, I don't know if you were present during the inaugural session or not. We raised this point to the Principal Secretary, sir, that we should institutionalize awards for companies and organizations doing good work in Rajasthan and across different categories. And he said within 1 month we will launch some Rajasthan specific water awards. So we are probably going to create a platform where.
Yes, sir. Award is one part, but of course, this is giving opportunity to share the best practices so that it can be.
That will be all intervened. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, Sisi Nagarajan, I just wanted to say that it's no more an option not to recycle the water, and it also makes economic and business sense to do it towards sustainability. And the technologies are very much possible and available, and Indian engineers and organizations are adequate enough to absorb and import or transfer, get these technologies transferred from wherever it is available and make it suitable for the local market. And it is high time that every individual should start thinking that water is the resource and no more a commodity. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you, speakers, for your closing remarks. I think it was a very interesting session with regard to both talking about the 3 R's, which is reduce, reuse, and recycle, and also in terms of different technologies, starting from extracting water from air to recharging of the bore wells. I think also we were able to demonstrate where there is a will, there is a way. And companies like Hindustan Zinc going forward and really taking this forward in terms of not just talking about it, but also from an implementation perspective. I would also like to probably share, probably in a minute, in terms of what Mahindra World City has been doing here, because I represent Mahindra World City, Jaipur. We are a 3,000-acre integrated city with joint venture with government of Rajasthan. Entire development is on a wasteland in a dark zone, where across 3,000 acres there is not even a single bore well, and we are 100% dependent on the rainwater harvesting, which is only charging the ground for the future usage, as well as we are only using the piped water continuously, for the core use. Plus, what we have also done is we have also the STP at an entire city level, where the city wastewater is being taken, and it is being used for landscaping, as well as the volume increases, it will also be supplied to the industries for the non-core purposes. We have been also trying to work with the state government, where we have already put in a tertiary treatment plant, and maybe Atul, you can help us with that. We have been voicing it together with the state government and also with PHED. If the city wastewater, which is a place called Delavas, would be provided to the industry, and we have the entire infrastructure ready, like a tertiary treatment plant, where this water can be taken in and can be used by the industry. It is a valuable wastewater which could be used for industries, and we can also reduce dependency on the fresh water. So with this, I would like to thank FICCI, Atul, and the entire FICCI team, and my member panelists for the very good session around the Water Summit. And I would like to also thank our supporters in terms of Kajaria, Hindustan Zinc, and Mahindra World City Jaipur. So thank you all for your time and for not only in terms of sharing precious ideas and information, but also for hearing us. Hope we are able to implement some of these ideas for better quality of life and our future sustenance. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Session Chairman, for a wonderful session. And good to see you, Mr. Nagarajan, after a long, long time. And look forward to see you more often.
We will do that. I think my association with Rajasthan Water Supply and your good self has been very long. I look forward to continue to contribute.
So with this, we come to the close of this virtual edition of Rajasthan Water Summit, and hopefully soon we will meet in next edition of a physical water summit, maybe during the next financial year. So thank you all. Thank you, Session Chairman. Thank you, speakers. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.